Thank you for joining us today for our seminar in the Journey to Science series at Onondaga Community College. This seminar is sponsored by the Bridges to Baccalaureate grant. Today, we are welcoming one of OCC's very own, Nikia Dennis. Nikia started out in the clinical world as a medical assistant and then moved on to healthcare administration before joining OCC. Professor Dennis recently earned her doctorate in education from St. John Fisher, and she's here to share some of her story with us today. As you're watching, if you have any questions, there's a question and answer button at the top, and you can submit your questions at any point in time, and we'll be sure to have Professor Dennis answer those. Thank you for sharing your time and your story with us. Welcome, Nikia Dennis.
Thank you, Professor Hamilton. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you all for allowing me to share my story with you today. So today I wanted to talk to you about, I guess my education is kind of STEM adjacent in healthcare, and just share with you how I started out and then how I became an adjunct professor and faculty specialist for OCC School of Health. As Professor Hamilton said, if you have any questions, nothing's off limits, please let me know and I will answer them the best way I can. So my parents were in the military, so of course we lived all over the world, and I believe that experience helped open my mind to many different things, and just knowing that anything is possible, which ultimately helped me. Around the third grade, we had moved to Buffalo, New York. So that was my first experience with just being surrounded with people that were in poverty. And actually, I met my husband there, but I would say by the time we were 25, at least 16 people that we grew up with had been murdered. So there was a big culture shock for me that I had never experienced before. Regarding school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. But when it came time to pick a high school, I chose one of the engineering schools in Buffalo. I definitely always loved math and science, so I figured I could apply that to engineering. So I didn't think my grades were that good to get into like these big universities when it came time to go to college. So I figured I'll apply for like 10 or 15, and then hopefully one of them will accept me, but I ended up getting into all of them. So then I had to make another decision of which one to go to. Ultimately, I chose Florida A&M University, which is a historical Black college. And I decided to take up architecture. So I believe it was my first class, first architecture class, and I found out quickly that I needed to know how to draw in some type of way, which was a big red flag for me because I am like a stick figure drawer. That's about as far as I can do. So then I was like, all right, this is not going to work. I need to figure out something else, which I changed my major to, I think, graphic design. So I did that for about a year. So then my first big barrier with education came when I went to register for the second semester and found out that I owed a $13,000 bill, which I did not have the money to pay for. And then around the same time, I found out that I had cervical cancer. So ultimately, I ended up coming back to New York. My mother lived in around Corning area, so I came back to New York and could not get my transcripts from the last school until I paid the money. So then I had to start over with that whole first year, and I ended up going to Corning Community College until I could figure out what I wanted to do, because architecture wasn't going to work for me, and I wasn't really interested in graphic design anymore. Around that time, I believe someone told me about a CNA class, which is a certified nursing assistant, and you go through like a 4-week training. So I said, okay, I like healthcare, let me try that out. I went for about a week, and I knew at the end of the week that was not for me. I think as well at Corning Community College, I had failed some classes. Everything in life right then was just a bit chaotic for me. So I had ultimately finished my liberal arts degree at CCC, and I decided that I was going to go to SUNY Brockport, which is located out near Rochester. So I moved there and got my first job at the University of Rochester Medical Center, where I became a medical assistant. And I fell in love with it. I learned how to draw blood. I learned how to do EKGs. I kind of got to manage the flow and the operations of the clinic that I worked in. And I think I fell more in love with that part. And that kind of pushed me in the direction of going into healthcare management. And Brockport ended up having a healthcare administration program. I would say around that time is when I noticed that like being a Black woman would create more barriers for me than I thought, as far as my goals and wanting to be. I wanted to be in charge. I wanted to help people, but I wanted to be in charge as well and make the tough decisions. And like internally, that kind of created a little self doubt and low self confidence because I felt like I was working my butt off. I would stay late, come in early, do extra stuff. Yet I still was not getting promoted. And not saying that it's because of that, but I just became more aware and then realized that, okay, one thing that no one can take away from me is education. So I'm going to keep going with that while I figure the work part out. At the time, I would say up until maybe like my master's degree, I didn't have like any academic role models, which I would suggest for everyone. So I had, my mom's a hard worker. I had a lot of like life role models, but no academic role models. So what I would do is look up like women who were in charge of healthcare organizations, and they give like bios of their CEOs. So I would look up what degrees they had and try to, in a sense, emulate that as my path because I wasn't sure which path to take to try and get to those positions. But while I was at Brockport, I took a biostatistics and epidemiology course, which I loved because it was a mixture of math and science. And I thought maybe I would go into public health, but my professor had told me about like I could be a nursing home administrator, and I had never heard of that job before. And it took me back to, I think I was about 16, and my grandmother had passed away in a nursing home. And I just remember her, like she declined so fast from being at home to being in a nursing home. And I thought, okay, that's up my alley. I can be in charge. I can help people in a different way, maybe not as a clinician, but as someone who can remove or eliminate barriers for the clinicians. So then that was my next path. So after the University of Rochester, I got a job as a traveling phlebotomist, which I loved. Got to travel all over the world, but same thing. I worked hard. I did things that other people wouldn't do, and I still was not getting promoted. So I felt like my bachelor's degree was not getting me the success that I wanted. So I said, okay, well, I need to get my master's degree then. And the healthcare administration program at Brockport was more general. So I chose to focus my master's in that as well so that I can get, have more detailed education. I did decide to do an online program, which is for some people and can be difficult for others. My mother, as I said, was in the military, and she's a retired corrections officer. So we were like very regimented at home, and so I thought, okay, I can do this online course or online program. And back then, I did not have the time management skills that I needed to do that. I would wait till Sunday to get all my assignments done. I definitely made or created unnecessary stress on myself than I had to. So I finished my master's degree online. And at this point in my life, my goals were pretty much, all right, am I completely done with school? I'm still trying to get promoted to this leadership position. Um, and of course, I want to make good money. And I did not have any kids at the time. So I thought, oh, maybe, my husband and I can have a baby, because he had been harassing me for a while about that. But I was going with that for a little while. And I said, I don't want to go to school anymore. I'm done. And so then I decided, okay, let's have a baby. So at 7 months pregnant, a friend tells me about a doctoral program that she's in. And she's a registered nurse, so I thought it was, for nurses. And she's like, no, it's for executive leadership. And I'm like, okay, that's, right up my alley. But I'm like, I'm about to be a first-time mom. Like, that's, not a good plan for me. So I would just put it this way, things were a bit fuzzy from that initial conversation until 2 months later, when I ended up starting the doctoral program at 9 months pregnant. And I ended up giving birth 2 weeks later. I was on maternity leave, and during that time, found out from my job that I was being promoted finally, which I have been striving for years. I was being promoted to run my own facility as a nursing home administrator. And then 2 months after that, after I returned to work, newly promoted, new mom, and newly starting this doctoral program. It was March 2020, and everything shut down from the pandemic. I would say that the past 2.5 years have been the most difficult years of my life. It's kind of ironic that everything that I had been striving for or wanting to do all kind of happened at the same time, which created a lot of barriers for me. I would say I struggled with guilt of not being around my son a lot. At the nursing home, and because of the pandemic, I would work 12, 15-hour days. I come home, he's already asleep. I have 6 hours of schoolwork to do, not spending time with my husband. I would say I was depressed as well. I was exhausted. And then kind of in fear of the unknown. A lot of my residents, died from the pandemic, and that has an effect on you. And then I still had to try to get through school, which was extremely difficult. But I definitely had a lot of support from classmates, from friends, and my family, of course. But I can say that, at this past July 2021, I did successfully defend my research, and I focused it on women CEOs in healthcare, and how feelings of self-doubt and self-esteem and low confidence may cause us to create our own barriers when we're trying to advance. And that was kind of personal to me because I had those own experiences and feelings before. And then in September of last year, one of my good friends had told me about this position at OCC, and I was so excited and a little nervous because education in any aspect, and definitely not higher education, was never on my radar. I definitely do not like speaking in front of people, so the thought of teaching, a classroom full of students was very scary for me. But I can say that it has been one of the best decisions I have made in a long time regarding career-wise. And it was something that I definitely wasn't expecting. My advice would be, like life is going to happen. Barriers will come up. whether we expect them to or not. And, you know, it would be beneficial if you can turn those barriers into motivation. And also, you know, be easy on yourself if you're not sure exactly what you want to do. Sometimes knowing what you don't want to do helps you get closer to figuring out what it is you'd love to do. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Nikia. You've had quite the journey, so very circuitous. And there's a question, and it is, would you do it again? and this is kind of right. Hindsight is always 2020, but you kind of found your dream job, and then, you know, the world and everything else happened, and things sort of delved into chaos. Knowing all that, would you do it again?
I would say yes, only because I don't know. At 35, I feel like I have a lot of experiences to share with people. I feel like the things that I've been through have definitely made me stronger. They've made me more aware of other people's struggles, and how, you know, whatever privilege I have, whether it is just education, how I can help lend that to others. And it definitely made me a crier. I've definitely cried a lot through the years, but I would definitely do it again.
That is good to hear. Oh, another question is, and this is a great question, it's a compliment too. It's, I'd like to take your class. What do you teach?
Oh, thank you. Right now I teach Introduction to Healthcare. It is HPR 101.
Okay, is that an overview of the different
Yes.
healthcare options?
Yeah, so it's more of a, yes, intro to healthcare, like the different facilities, the different types of jobs that you can have. A lot of people are only aware of, like, you can either be a nurse or a doctor. There are so many other jobs in the healthcare field, depending on what you want to do. Some people want to have more patient contact. Some people are really good with computers, so they can work in medical records, or and then it also helps get students acquainted with just being like being in a college class. So you get acquainted with the different programs and services that we have on the campus at OCC.
Perfect. Another question, and this is sort of diving deeper. If you could talk to yourself, right, from, you know, a couple and then some years ago, what would you tell yourself? Sort of the Nikia Dennis starting out as a medical assistant.
Yes, I would say to myself, have more confidence. You're awesome. You know, you can do it. I think I had a lot of low self-esteem, and I'm not exactly sure where that came from, but and I still work on it now, but that would be the biggest thing that I would say to myself, because I think I hindered myself by overthinking and creating problems that weren't even there yet. You know, if I choose this school, is this going to happen? So I'm not going to do that. I'll just take the safe road. I think I took a lot of safe roads, but I would tell myself to be more confident, and it's okay if you make a mistake. Now I feel like if you make a mistake, then you're closer to making the right decision or the right choice. So I would tell younger Nikia, believe in yourself more.
Well, certainly making mistakes, you've eliminated one option that was not the correct one.
Yeah.
Only a few options to go. Now, in your work now with students at OCC, what does your day-to-day look like?
So as the faculty specialist, I definitely am kind of like the cheerleader and like the representative for the School of Health. Definitely play a big part in like open house, orientations. I do help advise students. I help with creating events for the School of Health. And then there are a lot of new people that we have in the School of Health. So just kind of getting us together, like our career coach, our advisors, We put on like advising events, and then as far as teaching, and there are some other like committees and stuff that I'm on. I work with called a Boost Kregsky grant, and we focus on helping students who are parents, come to college, and we work with like On Point and Head Start, and so we do like a lot of community service things as well. But I also give like career advice to students who aren't sure what they want to do in healthcare, or maybe not even in healthcare. And if I don't know the answer, then I can put them in touch with people who may know better than I do.
There's a question, and it's how do I meet with you? Are students able to schedule appointments through the School of Health specialist appointment scheduling?
If you just send me an email, because I don't think I have a link for like where I think like with an advisor, you can just click on it and make an appointment. I usually tell students just send me an email, and I'll be like, do you want to do this on on Teams, on the phone, and we pick a date, and then we go from there.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like you're involved in so many different things, and I see a common thread here. You are a cheerleader. You're cheering people on. You're helping them overcome these obstacles, right? Because they're not just academic. It's just getting to the point where you can sit down in the classroom and focus. There often are a series of obstacles, and clearing those, right, and finding solutions.
Yes, and a lot of students, I think other people think it's easy to say like, oh, just sign up for college and go to college. But a lot of students, they have childcare issues. They take care of parents. They're worried about what are they going to eat, for the week. Or so I think there are a lot of barriers that need to be acknowledged that need to be overcome before, or not before, but just maybe even simultaneously, to be successful in college as well, because those are definitely important. I can sit in class all, I can show up every day, but if my mind is not, if I'm worried about my mom or my kids, or, who's going to watch them, who, just those things, then it's not beneficial.
Certainly, and it's good to know that there are all these resources on campus that help students with just these obstacles, because in my experience teaching in the classroom, students are hesitant to share these things, understandably, and when they do, and when there are solutions, they're surprised that, wow, like somebody's here to help me solve these problems that don't have to do with my math class.
Yes, we have a community care hub that help parents or two-family homes with kids and single parents. We have a food pantry here. We have mental health services on campus. We even have like a career closet with like awesome clothes that I would wear myself. If students, have an interview and, don't have anything to wear, not sure what to wear. There are just so many things, but I get the no one wants to be pitied either. I get that. And a lot of people don't want to share, but we have a lot of services at OCC, to help with those barriers outside of just the classroom.
As we finish up here, do you have any sort of parting words for our students?
I would say, believe in yourself, regardless of what your circumstances look like. And the biggest thing I would say is ask for help if you need it. Don't suffer in silence. You're not alone. You'd be surprised. If you share one thing with someone, you'd be surprised how much you have in common, or how many other people have experienced the same thing. And, if they found a way to get around it, why do you have to learn the hard way? They've already figured it out for us, or, for you. But I would say ask for help if you need it, whatever it is. I'm definitely a source. If I don't know the answer, I love to research, so I will figure it out. And we can take steps on how to, eliminate any barriers, but just don't give up. Don't give up. There's a way around everything.
Well, thank you for those encouraging words. And thank you again for taking time out of your very busy day, now knowing all the things that you're involved with, to share with our students and to advertise these resources that are readily available for our students. Thank you very much, Nikia Dennis.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for having me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.